Welcome back, friends at G&K. We're sitting here in early June, and several of you have wrapped up planting or are going to wrap up planting. And it may be late on the calendar by our desire, but we actually have had a really nice finish. And so what I want to address is a couple things. What can we learn by what we've done with this later planting? And what changes or amendments need to take place because of this? So we're going to get into that in this video, so stay with us. I want to look at some planting conditions here that are very important. And it's already planted for most cases, but it's things we can log in our memory banks and take into us into the future. A good rule of thumb is if you peel the soil back and come at it from a worm's eye view, you want to find the seed and wonder how it got there. Meaning you want loose soil above it and look at that, wonder, how did that seed get in there? Those are great conditions. If you know how it got there, it probably wasn't the best conditions at the time. So let's look at what knowing how it got there kind of looks like. This is a known little wetter pocket of the field, and maybe 95% of the field was fit, but this 5% of the field maybe wasn't quite as fit. But this is what you can come to expect by not being totally fit. Okay, so I want to pop this up here, and we're going to find our seed. If we get sidewall compaction from our Tru-V openers and that seed slot in there, it's going to germinate just fine because we're firmed into moisture. But here's what, when you know it was put in there because you can see your slot, what happens is when the lateral roots start coming out from the crown, it'll hit the side of this, and that's what creates what's called tomahawk roots. So when we dig corn in this particular spot here in a month from now, and the roots are going right down in a tomahawk or a lateral movement, that's because it can't pierce the sidewall compaction created by them openers. We really want to look for loose soil around that, so when the crown roots are set, they can pierce through that, or there is no obstruction. So this will be a little bit problematic, so it's going to take some pretty forgiving weather to pierce through this. Now granted, this is a 5% of the field we're in. 95% was great, and this is one little wet pocket, but this is what you want to avoid if this is predominantly what your fields are like. And what tends to happen in late springs like this is it'll stay wet and wet and wet, and we're waiting and it's wet, and we're waiting and it's wet, and you're like, it's not fit, it's not fit. Then all of a sudden it gets fit, and then it seems like in 24 hours it goes from fit to really dry. So what do you have to pay attention to in those scenarios? And I'm telling you, I've told so many people, plant deep, plant deep. And the reason is because the moisture gets pushed down and the dryness gets pushed down. If we're laying in dry soil, we won't get even germination, and in some cases we may not get germinated until we get a rain, and we don't want that. So I've told so many, don't be afraid to push this thing deep because it will pay off big. And as I look at our long-term forecast, it's going to be really important to have deep planting. So what I tend to do is I'll find the seed, put my finger that depth, lay my knife across, and you can kind of see your depth. Now most people, 2 inches is their second knuckle. See, I can't even cut my finger. This thing can't even cut butter. Now, if you notice, this is firm nicely into moisture, which is exactly what we want to have to help get this stuff going. We're going to get in another field here where we've dried out a lot deeper than this. This is heavier soil, so it holds moisture better, and we can find our seed. I actually kind of cut that one off. But here's what's nice. We got the nice seminal root starting out on this. This corn has been in the ground, today Wednesday. This has been in the ground just shy of 4 days full time. How long does it take corn to get out of the ground? It takes about 100 to 120 GDUs to get corn out of the ground. On an 80-degree day, that's about 20 heat units, maybe a little less. So in 5 days time to 6 days time, corn planted in conditions like this with 80-degree days will be up in 5 to 6 days. If we get rain over the weekend and then it's hot next week, is actually a tremendously good start for us, because we will increase our heat unit accumulation to get the crop catching up and help us root down before the real stress of the season starts to hit us. So I'm actually not too disappointed with a late plant, even though in our minds we wish it was a month sooner. I like the position we're in currently. Yeah, so how do you determine how many GDUs are collected in a day? You take the maximum daily temperature added to the minimum daily temperature, divided by 2, subtract 50, and that's how many GDUs you accumulated that day. The hot days we got coming at us, we're going to be catching up on heat units pretty rapidly. And believe it or not, corn does a tremendous job of compensating for itself for late planting. Every variety you plant, whether it's 105-day corn to 115-day corn, takes so many GDUs to black layer. And believe it or not, when it's planted late, corn will compensate and make up for itself, meaning it can actually get there quicker on fewer GDUs than what the book value is for that hybrid. So I only say that to say all hope is not lost for planting Memorial Day and June 1st, which there are a lot of planters still rolling, but I actually don't feel too bad about that. We have a good opportunity ahead of us. We got a lot of time. Mother Nature, we don't even know what she's going to throw at us yet. Okay, on to the next field. This one actually, boy, he needs to be a lot deeper. This is a little shallow. I pushed that one down in there, but so that's barely 1.5 inches. So we really need to get that into moisture. Now, if we get rain this weekend, it'll probably save it. But if we don't get much and it dries back out at 88 degrees every day next week, we got to get that thing in moisture. Chase that seed deep in a hot, dry stretch like this. That's really, really important. Of course, we've all dried out. This is a no-till situation, but you don't see any slot. We can peel this back and we have nice loose soil above us. So here's our seed. Here's our seed, and it's all loose above. There's a piece of hairpin residue, but that's all loose above it. So ideally, and we can't always pick ideal, but when you find your seed, you want to look above that seed, and it should wonder to you how you got it in there. But when it's all loose soil, then that crown is unobstructed, and you never restrict your crown roots from starting. You build a lot better foundation underneath that plant. This was just planted last night, so this has only been in the ground 12 hours. Depth is a little shallow, period. Make sure you chase moisture, be a lot deeper than where you're at. You need to be a minimum of 2 inches deep right now. We're gonna go look at a field to see what changes we might need to make that we still have time to react to, and they have to be made. Ooh, look at the auto steer on that. I think they didn't calibrate it correctly. There's the auto steer now. What are you videoing? So one of the amendments that a lot of us are gonna have to make is giant ragweed. Here's a patch right here of giant rag that are well over 1 foot tall. These are starting to die. This is somebody's bad day with a combine several years ago that I found in the field. So some of these are approaching knee high or more, and these get to be a real bear to kill. So there's a couple things, and maybe several of you watching still needs to get some spraying done. And there's a lot of corn programs that contain a really valuable component, and that's mesotrione. And meso is very effective on giant rag. But when you start to get some big size, it can be a little dicey on taking them down. So a few things to factor into your decision making is if it's a cornfield, you might consider a product like Verdict that has Sharpen in it. And the Sharpen at the high rate of Verdict at 10 ounces, you'll get 2 ounces of Sharpen, and 2 ounces of Sharpen is like liquid fire on giant rag like this. They'll be gone. 1 ounce of Sharpen can help, but sometimes it'll miss some bigger rag. These ragweed right now is symptomology of a growth regulator of dicamba. That's why they're all wilting over. I normally don't like dicamba sprayed over the top of corn, but when corn is not emerged and the soil is dry and conditions are dry, that's a time that I actually like dicamba. And you can incorporate dicamba into your corn programs to help get ahead of stuff like this, clean them up quick, win the game, move on. See how this is where depth becomes really important. See how dry this is all on top, and we're firmed right down into the moisture. And this has only been in the ground for 3 days. And this is what we have. So with the heat units we're going to accumulate, this will be out of the ground in probably 6 days, maybe a fuzz less. And then if we get a rain in a few days, it'll be prime time. That's a really good scenario right there. And the weeds are going down, so you're going to get weeds in a death scenario before they're ever competitive to the crop. It actually looks like the dry belt off my snowmobile too. Pretty sure it's combine. Might have been the F2. If you farm with a gleaner, comment below. Ah, crap. Now we won't get any comments. Here's wild garlic. Your hand will stink. This is a sign of poor weed management for years and years and years if you see this in your field. So the question becomes, would you rather have planted the 10th of May or now with the conditions we've had? And to be honest with you, the game of farming is a lot of unknowns and a lot of risks. So you don't know what the future holds, and you don't know what Mother Nature holds. But what does hold true is evenness and consistency. So remember, it takes so many heat units to get corn out of the ground. So if you think back around the 1st of May, we were cold every day and we were wet all the time. So in a lot of those cases, a lot of days back then, we were accumulating 0 heat units a day, or 2 or 3 a day. So that corn sometimes takes 3 weeks to get out of the ground, or 2 weeks to get out of the ground, versus this corn that will be out of the ground in 5 days. So this corn will have a monster consistent start. So evenness means everything when it comes to corn yields, meaning you want every plant at the exact same growth stage, so it sets the ear at the exact same node, and it is all the same. You want them to be carbon copies of each other. When they're not carbon copies, you can't raise big numbers. You just can't. You can raise good crops, but you can't raise the big ones if you don't have consistency. So yes, I don't like May 30th corn or May 28th corn or June 1st corn. That's not my preferred, but my preferred is evenness and together and fast. And that's what we're going to get. So even though it might be late, it's actually going to be okay for now. Now time will tell. We'll maybe shoot a video in late July and I'll be all ticked off because we're in a D3 drought. We're not getting rain. But for today, I'm going to take what we have because I really like the conditions we're going into right now. I had to end up with at least a field of growing corn before we go away from you today. But hopefully there's a few things you can learn to carry into next year. As I know most of you watching this are already done planting or maybe going to be done real soon. But just log these in your memory bank. I just want to address a few things that we've been getting questions on and maybe help you solve some problems that you may encounter. Reach out to our team if you got questions. We're here to help you. We don't know what you're thinking until you call us or text us, but we want to help. We appreciate you tuning into this video and help our channel out. Hit the like and subscribe button below. If we don't see you in person, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Do I ever talk a lot? Is a frog's butt watertight? Whenever the camera gets in front of me and you got somebody staring at you, then you're like, how about this? Well, like driving around, I'm like, I want to say this and this and this and this. And then when I'm in the field, I'm like, so do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around.
All right, go for it.
I'm going to give it the Greg Knibular bull crap. Okay, I'm trying to think what I want to say next because you get me like all like flustered. I'm told at home I repeat myself all the time. Wet and wet and wet. And we're waiting and it's wet and we're waiting and it's wet. And you're like, it's not fit. It's not fit. You with me? You with me? Are you with me? Is that good or stupid? Are you still videoing? So I can make a bunch of stuff up. Probably because I don't remember what I just said 10 minutes ago. But until then, we'll see you in the next video. I appreciate you in this one, and always hit the like button. Feel free to comment, and we'll see you on the next one.